Augustina and her family joined members of different tribes to walk 24 miles in remembrance of the missing children.
You know, I said, these kids, when they take it from their parents, were forced to walk to these schools, and so it's only right that we walk. We're going to stop traffic if we have. You're going to listen to us.
The march ended at St. Gregory's Abbey, a Catholic church that previously ran a mission boarding school for Native children called Sacred Heart.
Yeah, all right. So, yeah, I want to jump in this. I want to show this because, I think this is an important thing, for the fact that millions of people, they celebrating Thanksgiving Day, while the actual natives who suffer from the Thanksgiving Day are the one mourning of that day. They're not celebrating it, they're mourning it, while other people eating turkey and having a good meal. Is that a celebration of saying, we kill off the Indians and we win, we trick them and set them up and poison them? For us to kill a bunch of turkey in that day, and the turkey represents the fact that the Indians, they wear a lot of feathers. That's why the turkey with the, the fact that they kill, when the turkey spread it, a lot of feathers. You know what I'm saying? So the feathers means a lot to the natives. And this is a video showing that what they're doing on Thanksgiving Day. If you look at it, it's a live video.
Contributed to your healing at all?
Not really.
It's a live video. So I'm not even trying to, pull up this in like a couple of days ago or a while ago. No, this is happening presently. Since November 25th, 2021. This is their celebration. This is what they do on Thanksgiving Day while everybody is in the house eating turkey. That's disrespectful. Imagine black people. We even took part. We even us played a part in the later years of celebration, while we had to go through as black people. Well, let's listen to see what it's in. Let's see if they're celebrating Thanksgiving Day.
Going to have to be more than an apology, My healing would be when the federal government, I want them to stand up and tell the world, this is what we did, admit it, admit it.
The Abbey said it's unaware of any records of children who may have been buried at Sacred Heart. The lack of records and the difficulty obtaining those that do exist is a common issue with Indigenous boarding schools. Experts say many documents were intentionally destroyed, while others are scattered in archives across the country. We spoke to a reverend who isn't surprised records are missing.
I think the lack of knowledge and lack of records was intentional to keep it a secret.
The Methodist Church is one of many denominations that ran assimilation schools. Reverend David Wilson represents Native people who belong to the institution. He's calling on leaders of the church to learn about its past and make amends with its Native victims.
The large majority have no clue what's going on with these boarding schools that probably are in their own areas across the country.
Do you think that's a problem?
That is a big problem. We continue to have to remind United Methodist Church about who we are.
In 2009, President Obama signed a resolution apologizing for past policies toward Native people. 12 years later, the first Native Secretary of Interior, Deb Haaland, is launching an investigation into government-funded assimilation schools. And the history of those schools still remains large.
Yeah, I want to stop it right there. Where she said President Obama passed, let's see.
This church is one of many
Let's take that back a little bit.
Assimilation schools. Reverend David Wilson represents Native people who belong to the institution. He's calling on leaders of the church to learn about its past and make amends with its Native victims.
The large majority have no clue what's going on with these boarding schools that probably are in their own areas across the country.
Do you think that's a problem?
That is a big problem. We continue to have to remind United Methodist Church about who we are.
In 2009, President Obama signed a resolution apologizing.
2009, President Obama signed a joint resolution apologizing for the things that they have done to, apologize regarding the Indian tribe, and offers an apology to all the Native people on the behalf of the United States to acknowledge the long history of official depression. Now, what about black people, though? What about the so-called black and African Americans, as y'all call them? What happened to the long history of official What about those people? And what about the natives? You know, not the natives. What about the black people? And I'm not saying the natives is not involved, because it's about the natives. It's about all of them. Well, I'm speaking about Obama specifically. But anyway, let's move on, because we already know how that went.
For past policies toward Native people. 12 years later, the first Native Secretary of Interior, Deb Haaland, is launching an investigation into government-funded assimilation schools. And the history of those schools still remains largely left out in textbooks.
Same shit black people go through. The only difference is, though, and the thing that I give these Native people respect for, they keep memorial days, they keep the history, they constantly repeat it, they pass it on to their children, they keep the tradition, they teach their new generation the tradition, and they always fight. They don't never ever just back down. You know what I'm saying? They always respond to something that they don't like. Black people don't do this shit. That's why I respect them so much.
Attending Carter Seminary changed Augustina's life. She's still working to forgive herself for the way it affected how she raised her family.
I love my children. No, I loved them. But at the same time, I could not tell him, I love you. And because I guess it was never said to us, maybe, I never felt the love. You know, I was too busy obeying and marching. And I feel guilty that that's the way that I was.
After hearing her grandmother's stories, Vanessa is just starting to process her upbringing.
I had so many questions, you know, as I became an adult. Why aren't we affectionate? It's an overwhelming feeling to know that the person who, you know, raised you had to endure all of this. And then it just, you know, I felt bad. I still feel bad. It helps me understand a lot more. This is Turtles. Loca.
Loja.
Loja.
Vanessa and Augustina are proof that the forced assimilation policies failed. Besides learning Muskogee together, the two who are part of the Seminole Nation attend traditional stomp dances as well.
You have them laced up, you.
Generations of Native people are coming together to march forward, seeking to be heard.
When they put idiot people in the ground like that,
Those are seeds.
They can beat us, abuse us, hurt us, mentally affect us, but our spirit.
Yeah, this is serious, man. Why do? And this is the thing I'm saying. Like, people, you got people who associate with these people, who's friend with natives, who hang out with them, who spend a lot of time with them. Maybe they don't know the history specifically, but I said this is the time they need to learn. This is the time you need to learn. Because these people are your friends. Yeah, I don't celebrate it. Once I learn what it is, I don't celebrate it. And I have two reasons not to. My two reasons are, one, you have nothing to result to my culture. Because I don't even know what my culture is specifically, but I know it's not one for me to be celebrated because it's not part of my culture. It was forced upon me to celebrate. And two, it was basically celebrated for a massacre of the Native people. And the quick story is they tried to make a treaty with them and then had a big feast. It was a big feast. And in the dead of the night, the next day, they slaughter all of them. At least almost every one of them. And every year, Americans celebrate, or whoever else does it, celebrate the death of Native people. Not that they had a war and then, there was that's just what it was. No. They literally had a peace treaty before it was a peace dinner. It was a great dinner to bring peace, like a banquet, to show peace between the natives and them and the colonizers. But no. Right after the dinner, food ain't even fully settled in yet. Once they let their guards down, they slaughter them. Specifically, slaughter most of the men at least, and then take their women. And we celebrate this thing. The thing is about me, I'm not gonna say something is wrong and we, and then still support it at the same time. It doesn't make sense. The things that I can control, the things that I can make changes to, when it comes to survival, being smart, knowing how to strategize. But there's things that you don't have to do. As black people, we should not be celebrating no kind of colonized fashion of anything. Unless we create our own. The same thing the natives does. They don't participate in the things that most Americans do. Because, they know that's not their culture. But let's keep it going.
Was still there.
Native people may not immediately receive answers from the government or churches, but by sharing their stories with the world, former students like Augustina are embarking on a healing journey of their own, no longer allowing the past to define them.
I love my children, but I could never say I love you.
Let's see if there's another video. Let's see if there's another video there. That's presently going on now. Cause this one live should just finish. 4 years ago. 4 days ago.
From the best brands. We're talking 20% off Nike, 25%.
4 days ago. This is 4 days ago.
Their voices to be heard.
Alright, this is 4 days ago. Native, they're not out here trying to celebrate that shit. They're not out here trying to be like, oh yeah, celebrate all Americans who supporting us by eating turkey and shit after we done that, after they done kill us off. Yeah, you guys are so nice to celebrate the death of our massacre of our ancestors. Ooh. Matter of fact, I should come over there and get some chicken too. Let me get a piece of turkey. Disrespectful, man. Disrespectful. You're laughing on the things that happen to people. If they choose to celebrate it their way, then you should do it the way they do it, not the way that the other enemies did it. Anyway, let's see what happened 4 days ago. This is November 21. Let's see if they're celebrating Thanksgiving. Let's see if they're encouraging people to go out and eat and feast on their dead ancestors.
After feeling silenced for centuries. Why do we gather today? 400 years later, we join to raise our voices high that we are still here. We are not conquered and we are not defeated.
As many were enjoying the Thanksgiving parade, indigenous people of Massachusetts protested the holiday that for them is not one to celebrate.
Plymouth is rich with history, but not the truth of the Indians.
Our presence here is a stark reminder of the true story of Thanksgiving that differs from so much from the fable stories shared in classrooms, history books, and celebrations across this nation.
Since 1970, the Wampanoag tribe has declared Thanksgiving a national day of mourning for the loss of indigenous people, culture, and land.
We will never forget the atrocities that fell upon our people as a result of their violent trespass.
Still today, the Wampanoag tribe continues to fight with the federal government over land.
Here we are about to celebrate Thanksgiving, and the fact that our tribe is still fighting for a little bit of land that we have. We own half of 1% of our ancestral territory, and 400 years later, we don't have much to be thankful for.
Well, we can't change the past, but what we can do is change the future. And the way that we change the future is to educate people and start understanding that this is not a day.
Yep, she said something really important just now. You can't change the past, but you can change the future. Yes, what was done is done. But what are we gonna do to counter that behavior? Is we gonna live it out, ignore it, just forget about it? Come on now. You gotta change. The goal is really to get rid of Thanksgiving and make it a mourning day, not a freaking celebration day. Pick another day for November. Pick another day for Turkey Day. Matter of fact, I'll be honest. You can't celebrate. You can't call it Thanksgiving. You gotta call it something else. Call it something else. Change the month. Put it in freaking summer instead of December, November. We as people have to change what happened. Even even in the native point of view and in the blacks' point of view. But like I said, I give them respect because they're trying to make it, they're fighting for it. They're doing something about it. See, I'm not even going to speak on the black culture too much because that's a lost cause. I think that's already. I think that already in the bucket. To be honest, I don't see black people ever coming back or even having this the status that these people do, because the difference between what black people doing and the natives doing right now, they're just kind of trying to protest and change certain things and let people know, like, yo, we know what's going on. Look how they even have the parade for Thanksgiving. Come on now. This is like a slap in the face. It's like a laugh in the face to the native people. Let's check out this cartoon here. Let's check this out.
Since I started Noom, I've lost 70 pounds. I've lost 97 pounds with Noom. I've lost 92 pounds.
The first Thanksgiving. American schools generally teach a conventional
So this guy,
pilgrims and Indians that finished.
I'm just doing reenactment videos to the whole point of Thanksgiving, and basically show some of the fact that the people out here are actually fighting against the people out here who's actually not, okay with this. I'm not saying that people who want to do Thanksgiving is fine, but what we're saying is don't call it Thanksgiving, or don't have it in a specific time frame. Change the date. Change the name. Don't call it Thanksgiving, because to the natives, they know what that means. You bring this big-ass turkey to the meal and have people gorge their bellies, and then after they're done full, you slaughter them. But I want to check out this video right here. I think this is my last video, and then I'm going to close out. This is crazy. Let's see.
Thanksgiving and how it's not the image ingrained in tradition. At the start of the 17th century, southern New England was home to a variety of busy communities within several confederations. These were the people of the First Light, and they called their home the Dawnland. Political leaders were known as sachems and had been trading with Europeans for over 100 years before the Pilgrims. Relations soured only after deceitful Europeans kidnapped locals to sell as slaves. Permanent European settlement was impossible due to the already high population of native occupants. But in 1616, tradesmen introduced a disease to the Dawnland, whose inhabitants died in droves from a lack of immunity. In 3 years, up to 90% were wiped out.
Lack of immunity. You mean to poison them? They brought a disease to kill them out.
They were to being subjugated by their unafflicted enemy, the Narragansett. He was determined to save the Narragansett.
Oh, I don't know.
Including droves from a lack of...
All right, right here. This is where they poison them out. You know, they kill them off. You know, boom, 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 boom. Come on now. I like to hear the direct word. See, when you use certain kind of words, it makes it seem nice and, you know, sensitive. Like it's not as bad. Oh no, it was bad. It was bad. All the skeletons in there for a reason. They're there because they literally did that in the most horrific way, selfish way. Well, anyway, let's go.
In 3 years, up to 90% were wiped out in several confederations, including the Wampanoag. Their head sachem, Massasoit, was aware of how close they were to being subjugated by their unafflicted enemy, the Narragansett. He was determined to save his people from such a fate. This was the political world the Pilgrims were about to enter. The Pilgrims were not called Pilgrims by their contemporaries. They were known as Separatists, a branch of the English Puritans. King James hated Puritans and began persecuting them in 1604, so the Separatists fled to Holland, where they were free to worship. But because they feared losing their national and communal identity, the congregation wanted a new place to plant their church. They decided on America and asked King James for a patent that would grant them rights to build a colony. They planned to make a profit catching fish to pay off the debts to their investors. The Mayflower set sail on September 6th. 2 months later, Cape Cod was spotted, and 16 men were sent ashore to inspect the area. Unfortunately, the settlers didn't know how to fish, and food was running out. They resorted to stealing from graves, homes, and storage pits to keep everyone alive. Then came their first hostile encounter with natives, but no one was killed. On December 12th, they reached New Plymouth. They did not land on any specific rock, but folklore insists they did. Construction began in January. By winter's end, 44 settlers would be dead from bad conditions. In March, they were surprised when a man named Samoset walked into New Plymouth, greeting them in English. He told them they were building on top of a village called Patuxet, whose residents had all died from the recent epidemic. It belonged to the Wampanoag, and their chief, Massasoit, was watching them. The settlers were eager to trade, so 5 days later, Samoset returned with furs and companions, including Tisquantum. Known famously as Squanto, he had come to tell them in perfect English that Massasoit had arrived. After years of dealing with Englishmen, the sachem did not trust the newcomers. Edward Winslow was sent to be a hostage and declared the settlers' peaceful intentions. Satisfied, Massasoit walked into New Plymouth and was regally greeted by the governor. A peace treaty was created, ensuring mutual protection if attacked by enemies. With the help of Squanto, New Plymouth settlers began to fare better. He taught them how to grow crops and was absolutely vital as an interpreter. To the Separatists, he was a gift from God. But in fact, Squanto had been kidnapped from Patuxet in 1614 and shipped to Spain to be sold into slavery. He ended up in London at the home of a merchant who taught him English and arranged for Squanto's return to the Dawnland in 1619. But Patuxet was now gone, wiped away by the epidemic. Massasoit took him in with suspicion because of his years abroad, but needed a translator to parley with the newcomers. He eventually sent his warrior Hobamo to live among the settlers and keep an eye on Squanto. By fall, the settlers had a bountiful harvest and a feast was held to celebrate. Massasoit showed up with 90 warriors and 5 deer for the meal. For 3 days, the English and Wampanoag ate and entertained one another. This was the famous first Thanksgiving children learn about in school. However, the word Thanksgiving would not have been used by these settlers to denote a harvest feast. For Puritans, a day of Thanksgiving was a day of fasting while giving thanks to God in prayer. But the story of Pilgrims and Indians does not end here. During New Plymouth's first year, Squanto had been up to something. Realizing his substantial power as the only English speaker of his people, he conceived a plan to overthrow Massasoit. He persuaded locals he could command the English to make war or peace at his will. Hobomok was suspicious of Squanto and warned Governor Bradford. Soon enough, they discovered Squanto's plot and informed Massasoit, who was furious. He demanded Squanto be handed over for a swift execution. Bradford refused. The interpreter was too valuable to give up. But according to the treaty, Squanto's life belonged in the hands of his sachem. Bradford finally conceded. He was about to hand over Squanto when an unidentified ship appeared. The alarm it caused delayed Bradford and worried Massasoit's envoys. Angered and impatient, they left. The ship carried 60 Englishmen planning to build a colony near Boston. They abused the Massachusetts locals, initiating a conspiracy to kill the colonists. Warned about the plot, New Plymouth's leaders launched a preemptive strike to save their impudent countrymen. It brought peace for a time. In that time, more Puritan settlers arrived, soon outnumbering the natives. And while the Pilgrims' Treaty with Massasoit lasted until the sachem's death, other Puritans were not concerned with such alliances. Their fanatic religious principles ensured no peace between the two cultures could last. To Puritans, Native Americans were the other, wild, savage, godless. With such an ideology, the outcome was inevitable. If they did not convert to Christianity and surrender their cultural identity, they had to be eliminated. The first Thanksgiving was a brief moment of harmony between two worlds, but sadly it was short-lived. The capitalist opportunities the Dawnland presented, combined with zealous puritanical beliefs, were incentive enough to wipe away the native inhabitants. There is nothing wrong with sharing a feast of thanks with loved ones, but remember the true events that started the holiday, and not the fairy tale.
Alright, so that was some truth to it and a bunch of whack at the same time. Alright, yeah, I had to kind of play that out because I didn't really want to interrupt too much. I really want to understand where it was going. But when it comes to the whole feast thing, yes, they did have a feast. And yes, you could see even in the natives, they got, what you call, spies, if you want to call them that, or sellouts. As he ended where he said how they brought religion in and how they backfire on the whole so-called peace meeting and everything, and then they start forcing them to be Christians and shit. Well, religion is always forced upon people, and it's proven that thing is being forced upon people, and they still follow it, they still believe in it, no matter what. They know that's the reason why their life is anyhow. But I just wanted to put a little bit of stuff out there just to show Thanksgiving is not something that should be celebrated. If Americans, people want to have a Thanksgiving day, a feast day, then I would say they should change it. Change it to summertime or some shit. Change it, I don't know, change it to whatever day it is, but you got to change the name. Call it a feast day instead of a Thanksgiving day that represent the peace treaty between natives and the Indians. I mean, natives and the Americans. But anyway, I'm going to end it here now because, yeah, sometimes these things, this shit dread me when I talk about it sometimes. So, alright, I ended it here. And until the next video, man. Until the next one.